Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Life After DD214. Today, I have with me a very special guest, Samantha Epperson. Samantha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rob? It's been a long time.
It
Very
has
long time.
been a very long time. I think we both got out about the same time, like 2015, right?
I got out March 2016. So, yeah,
A
about the
little,
same time.
yeah, about
Yeah.
the same time. So, what have you been up to?
So, currently, I'm chilling this summer, but hopefully, this December, I'll be getting my master's in marketing.
I don't think hopefully is really in the cards. I'm pretty sure you're very confident that you're going to get it.
Yes.
So, so let's jump right into it. We've known each other since our time at Fort Drum, but let's jump back a little bit
hmm
to when and why you first decided to join the Army.
Okay. So, I graduated from Texas Tech University August of 2007. And that is during the time when the economy started to tank. So I was living with family and I worked multiple jobs and it got to the point where I had to move back to my hometown where I graduated high school. And I lived with my mom and it was the same thing and I was working a temporary job. So then I became unemployed and in order to get an unemployment check at that time, I had to do so many job searches and apply to so many jobs. And so I like to help people. And so I was looking for those type of jobs. And when I was searching, I saw that the Army was looking for a mental health specialist. And I was like, hey, that sounds cool, but that also sounds really scary because that's the Army, something, I never thought about doing. And so at the time, my hometown had a recruiting center. So I went to the center and I talked to the recruiter. And the recruiter was really busy and he was like, well, can you come back? And I was like, yeah. So I went back to talk to him several different times and it went from there.
So you just kind of you found out where you needed to go and you just jumped right in.
Yeah, I will say though that, like I said, it wasn't a plan of mine to join the Army or it wasn't a dream or anything like that. I remember the recruiter had said, we can start this process and up to a certain point, I'll tell you, it's no point of return. And I remember telling him, if I'm going to constantly talk to you, then I'm going to make a decision. He's like, you don't have to do that. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. So I believe in God and I prayed about it. And I felt God was like, you're going to be okay. And I definitely didn't feel okay at times, but I was okay. So
That's
I went
true.
from there.
Nice. And so you came in as a mental health specialist.
No, I
Um,
didn't.
oh,
That's what I
okay.
wanted.
Oh, so let's talk about that. Where did you actually end up?
Okay, so I have a funny story. So I ended up choosing a healthcare specialist.
Hmm.
So when I was at basic, the drill sergeants were like, okay, we're going to call everybody's MOS. And if you don't hear it, let us know. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I don't hear my MOS called. So then I went up to the drill sergeant and I said, my MOS wasn't called. He's like, well, what's your MOS? And I said, I'm a healthcare specialist. He's like, oh, you're a combat medic. You go over there. I had no clue that that's what I would be doing. And yeah, I was freaking out.
Well, there you go. And then, so you graduate basic and go straight to AIT at Fort Sam. Graduate there, and then you go to the best place in the entire country, Fort
But yeah, the
Drum.
best with the best weather.
Yeah, with the best weather ever. How was your time at Drum?
Liked it. I will say that I see certain potential in the Army and I wish certain things were different. But I
Hmm.
mean, other than that, I don't regret joining the Army. It's actually, I feel like it's made me a better person. Um, Definitely taught me that I can do hard things. Because to be honest, prior to the Army, I feel like the Army was the hardest thing I've ever.
That's fair. A lot of I don't think a lot of people realize that. The army builds resilience. Well, the military in itself builds resilience,
Yeah.
I think, and we tend to be more resilient than a lot of other folks our own age because, especially at the young age, we get put through situations that most people can only dream of.
Yeah. And I
So,
will also say that I joined the Army later in life. I
yeah,
joined at 27 and I turned 28 at basic.
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. So, you were not ever going to be a lifer, or did you want to be like multiple contracts in def, retiring out of the army?
Um, Well, to be honest, the reason why I got out was because of mental health issues.
Okay.
So when I joined, I didn't know what to expect. I was just gonna go with the flow. I didn't think I was going to do it for the rest of my life, but I mean, you never know.
Right. Right. And so the experiences that you had were kind of the factors involved in your decisions to getting out. About when was that time when you decided, okay, I've had enough. It's time to go.
So throughout the military, I struggled with my mental health, and it got to a point where it just it was too much. It was time to go. I talked to my counselor, and she was like, "Yeah, it's time for you to go." But I did ask her because I hadn't hit the 4 year mark yet. I was like, "Is it possible if I can just finish my 4 years?" And she's like, "Yeah, we can do that." I just, for myself, I just wanted to say I did my 4 years. So
Right. And that's great too, because at least, you know, you know in your heart that you finished a contract and you were
yes,
able to, move on. When you say your counselor, were you talking about your career counselor or were you talking about like your mental health
mental
counselor?
health,
Okay.
mental health. Yeah.
And that was, she was in Charlie Company with you as well, right? Or was that a
No,
completely different?
it was a different counselor.
Okay. Okay. Which civilian counselor? I'm curious to like where.
She was stationed at so my counselor is a civilian, but she did work on the Fort Drum post.
Okay, all right. So that makes it really easy, especially because as a medic, um, in the Charlie Company of the BSP, Charlie Company also holds all the specialty medical people
Hmm.
too, like the dentist and the
Yes.
behavioral health and all those other folks. So I got a little concerned when you said, "Hey, I'm going to go see this therapist," and knowing that the mental health department is actually falling under Charlie Company, I was kind of hoping that you weren't in the same um, situation where you had to see each other every single day,
No.
in formation, um, things like that. So, but that's good. I'm glad that you actually like took the time to go see someone. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do that.
And I think it's really sad because, you know, I think life is hard in general, but then being in the military, it adds to it. And sometimes you just need a professional to help you work out whatever you may be thinking and or feeling or going.
Absolutely. And I tell people this before, even the quarterbacks of the most professional football teams have their own personal coaches. Nothing is easy, really. And you need a coach to get you even the thing that you are the professional in, you need a coach to get through it. So what makes you think that just trying to get through life, you don't need someone to help encourage you and actually push you along, and help deal with the things that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about your time, that moment when you're getting out, right? Like, how was that transition, like going through SFL TAP? How did that go for you?
So the time that I was in, I think the earliest you could start the process was maybe like a year and a half out. I went ahead and did it the earliest that I was allowed to do it because prior to joining the military, I said that I graduated in 2007 and that's when the economy started to tank. I knew what it was like to struggle to,
Right, for
get a
sure.
job. So I was like, no, I'm going to be on top of it. I'm going to make sure I understand how to do a resume correctly. What do I need to know? So I just wanted to make sure that when I got out, I was totally prepared. Um, I feel at the time when I was in, the program was great. I had great teachers, great leaders. They given me a booklet and it had like examples of resumes. I used that. So I mean, for me, I took it seriously and I found it very helpful.
Good. I'm glad that you did because I feel like, even with myself, just trying to go through it, I think I phoned it in a lot. The transition classes, I was like, man, I'm going to take the class and then I'm going to go home and then I'll be fine. I'll figure it out when I get out.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that after, hindsight being 2020 for myself,
Yeah.
that was absolutely the wrong attitude that I went in with. I guess luckily you had to suffer before, so you knew, just how much you didn't want to suffer after.
But I will say, so I've thought about that because, I'm the co-founder of the private Facebook group, Veteran of Hire, so I read comments sometimes and I read the posts sometimes. And when I look at what is being asked, sometimes I wonder if, like, because I don't like to attack anybody, I don't like to make assumptions. I'm like, okay, are some people not taking, Soldier for Life or whatever it's called now, are they not taking it seriously? But at the same time, I'm like, are some of the teachers misinforming service members, veterans about what it's like when they get out? But I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. So when I was getting ready to ETS, I was struggling with depression really bad. So this is funny now, but at the time it wasn't funny. So they had like a website that you could kind of like take a quiz, like a test. There's no wrong answers to figure out what you like. I was so depressed that when I got my results, it's like you like nothing.
Oh
Well,
no.
oh my gosh. But like, I think some people, when they're transitioning for whatever reason, and I'm not making excuses, but when you're struggling with depression, sometimes it's just hard to be there. You can give it your all I mean, everybody experiences depression differently, but like sometimes I felt like nothing. So fortunately for me, because my head was already in, I don't want to struggle again when I get out. Even though I was struggling with depression, I had that to hang on to. But like, if somebody is struggling with depression, anxiety, or whatever the mental health struggle may be, and I'm not attacking you, and they have your mindset, it make things a lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And like as you mentioned, we all deal with our own depression differently. Like I'm actually 1 week removed from the last episode because this past week I've been dealing with my own personal depression. And for me, what I do is I don't shut down. I just kind of slow down. So I didn't record an episode last week. I didn't do all the things that. So my social media has been super quiet this past week, and and that's how I deal with it. And usually for me, it's within 5 to 7 days by the time I start feeling better about myself and
Yeah.
or better for myself. And then I'm also a man of God as well, and so I'm praying a lot for not only myself but also other people. And
Right.
I've also enlisted help from other men and women that have been in my life for a long time, and they're helping me and they're praying for me as well. And so I think
Yeah. Good.
that's really what kind of helps me get through. And everybody's a little bit different.
Right.
I also go to the gym, so I can put in a lot of things into doing hard stuff, and then I
See, you're
start
so
feeling better.
fortunate because some of us, I wish the gym worked for me.
Oh, sometimes it doesn't. I went on Tuesday and I was
Huh.
kind of just there,
Yeah.
and it didn't help.
But that's good that you still went.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't go Wednesday. I didn't go the last time, so I just needed some time away. So
Right.
yeah, that was good for me. What have you learned about yourself? How do you deal with your struggles now that you've gone through different therapists, you've gone through this and you've come out the other side a stronger person? What have you noticed about yourself if you ever start to feel that way again? How do you get through that?
Um, I think a lot of it has to do with mindset. Um, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I have very high expectations. And it's good to have expectations, but when you hold on to that dearly and things don't play out, it's a hard hit.
That's true.
So it's just like, I think for me, just learning that things are going to happen and it's okay if things don't go my way. I believe in God and I just got to trust that, I may not see it now, but later down the road, whenever that may be, I'll see the purposes and things, even when they're not good, even
Yeah,
when they hurt. And that's the thing about believing in God is just trusting.
that's the hardest part
It
also.
is.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And so you mentioned that you're the co-founder of a private Facebook group. How did you get involved with that?
Okay, so there is a man that you and I both serve with at Fort Drum. Um, so the founder and I, we don't know each other. We actually met each other once several years later, I think a couple of years ago. But the person that we served with, he told the founder, I guess they were talking about the group, and he's like, well, there's this woman I serve with, she's into like mental health and helping people. So he invited me to the group. So prior to that, on my personal Facebook page, anytime I saw any resources for veterans, I would just share it on my personal Facebook. But once I got to the group, I started sharing a lot in the group, just to share. I mean, I like to help people. And the founder noticed that. He reached out to me one day and he said, hey, would you be interested in being the co founder? And I had said, well, what do you require of me? Because I don't want to say yes to something and then I can't commit. And so he told me what he required, and I said, oh, okay, I can do that. And so the group started out with us just inviting our friends who are service members, who are veterans. And then for the most part, it organically grew.
Yeah.
And people started, it was really cool to see because when the group started out, I was just sharing information, so, oh, here's this, job offer. Oh, here's this resource. And then one day, I don't know how, I'm glad it happened, people just started posting and asking questions,
Hmm.
and it just grew from there. So it was super cool to see that, to see
Yeah.
veterans helping veterans. It's wonderful. I'm not saying that 100% of the time that veterans are supportive in the group, because I've seen comments where it's not supportive, but to see each other helping.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I was part of that group for a while. I still am, actually. Um, and it was really nice to see a familiar face running the show in certain cases. But it was also a big inspiration to really why I started doing this podcast. Right? It's because I see that you guys are connecting people who are just getting out or like in between jobs with new opportunities that are coming up. For a lot of folks, one of the hardest things after getting out of the military is finding that first job, whether it's, something that you absolutely love doing, like it's your dream job or what have you, or it's just the thing that gets your foot in the door so that you can move up through experience. Either way, that first job is always the scariest and always the hardest one to get. But I love the fact that you were able to like take that and then explode it into something to where like now people are having dialogue with each other.
Yes,
So
and Rob, you're about to make me feel teary-eyed because I help because I want to help people. I didn't ever like envision the group to explode the way it did, or that it might inspire somebody like you to do what you're doing. Like, I think what you're doing is amazing. Um I think sometimes our community expects somebody else to do something, or maybe even the government, and it's like, no. If you see a need, if you want to help, you go do it, and you've got to have the mindset of, even if I just help one person, because to that one person, it means the world. So whenever I saw you, doing what you're doing now, I was like, that is super cool. These are conversations that we need to have, because service members and veterans need to know, like, hey, somebody's gone there before. And the conversations, that we have may give somebody hope, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, that person didn't have this, but they got there. Like, I feel like, when we work together as a community and we help each other out, like, we're giving each other hope.
absolutely, and we really need that, especially when you're getting out and you're going into something that you have absolutely no idea. Like a lot of us, when we get out of the military, we think we know what we're about to get into, and then when we step into it and we have to interact with people who've never been in the military before, it is a completely different world out there. And we are not exactly ready for it. I see it all the time, not just in your group, but I also see it in Reddit forums with veterans, and they're just like, I'm so confused because I was doing this, and this in the military, and if I said jump, someone said how high, and now I'm in this manager role in this civilian job, and I say jump, and the first thing out of somebody else's mouth is that's not in the job description. Um, and it's
Yeah,
a completely different culture shock that those have gone through and done it and are now 10 years removed from the military. We need to now turn back and say, hey, this is what we did. This is how
exactly.
this happens. And otherwise, every day, another veteran is reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And as veterans, we all know that in the military, we hate reinventing things. Hence why you and me do the things that we do to help others, I think,
And
anyway.
I think too what you said goes back to when I was talking about expectation. So in the military you have certain expectations that things are just going to be done, right there and then. Well, on the civilian side, that doesn't always happen. It depends on the company, it depends on the people who are hired. I mean, and I think that's the thing too when you transition, there's different factors and you have to keep that in mind. It's different.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you're out, what are you up to these days other than just going to school and running this Facebook page? What else are you up to?
So I am married.
Hey,
And yay! And this
congratulations.
coming thank you. And this coming Saturday will be me and my husband's 6 year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And so you went when you started going back to school for your masters, I'm assuming that you took your GI Bill.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. So I'm gonna be careful when I talk about, how my schooling got paid for because like for example, my mom will, be like, well, this veteran, saying this about, paying for school with this and this. And I tell my mom, look, everybody joined the military at different times. So there's like, not everybody gets the same thing. Like, it's kind of complicated to talk about. Like, I don't even know how it works. But me, when I joined, I think I had like the Montgomery GI Bill and the post 9/11. And at the time when I first started college, I chose the Montgomery GI Bill. But with that being said about college, this is my third time in college. So prior to joining the military, I went to grad school for a year. And then when I got out of the military, I went to grad school for a semester. And, now I'm finally finishing. This is my third. So that my third school, third different majors, taken me 17 years. Sorry, I'm getting all sidetracked. Yeah, I use the Montgomery GI Bill to
Okay.
pay mine. And then I also signed up for the military in Texas. So I also have the
Mm-hmm.
Hazelwood Act.
Ah, well, there you go. See, and a
Yes.
lot of people, especially a lot of Texans who are new Texans, have no idea what that is. Um, Someone like myself, I come from a different place and then I moved to Texas as fast as I could. I actually don't qualify for the Hazelwood, um, and that's okay because I don't need to go back to school. But there is another thing that you mentioned, and I'm I want to dispel this myth, and that is you're using your GI Bill to get a master's degree,
Yes.
right? I've heard a lot of veterans say that you can only use your GI Bill to get a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree.
Okay. So I joined the military already having a bachelor's degree. So when I got out, I was able to use my GI Bill for master's. So if there's any myths about, oh, you can't use it for master's, I'm using it for my master's right now. I don't, yeah, when it comes to the whole like academic benefits, all that stuff is very confusing. Like, I try to be careful when I talk about it because I mean, I don't know, how to go about all that. But yeah, I'm using I'm using my GI Bill to get my master's.
Right. And I did that too. I used my GI Bill to get my master's as well. Um, so it was always interesting to me to hear other soldiers who said that they can't use, or they don't use their GI Bill for a master's degree, which is not true. So also with benefits, did you also apply for your VA disability?
I did. I applied for disability prior to getting out. So I am medically retired from the Army. So they helped
Mm-hmm.
me with that process before I got out. Even when I got out, I don't know how many months after I got out, I did file some claims. And then just recently, I just filed another claim. So as far as disability, I want to say that veterans and service members should not be ashamed of applying for benefits. Like, I can't guarantee you that if you apply, you're going to get it. That I can't guarantee you, but please try. So I've worked a lot of different jobs working with the military veteran community. And something that I've heard, especially from family members, is like, yeah, it tends to be a husband a lot. Um, my husband, he's hurting for this and that. Our We have a bunch of medical debt. I said, well, he needs to see if he qualifies for the VA. Oh, he won't do that. Or, if he did what he was supposed to in the military, then, go file a claim. I can't guarantee that he's going to get it, but go file a claim. Oh, he won't do that. And the way I view it is like, okay, I can't promise you anything, but what if there is something there for you? Like, don't make your family financially suffer for whatever reason. Maybe it's pride. Maybe, you still kind of got that military mindset of tough it out. Like, please don't do.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we are 20 episodes in, and I think every episode we've talked about this. Like, you got to put your pride to the side. You have to say, okay, I'm hurting. I'm hurting because of my time in the military. Therefore, I need to at least, and just as you said, at least try. Right. The
At
worst thing
least
that they can say
try.
is no, and
Like,
and it's
don't.
free to try.
Yeah, it's free to try. I know it's not your intention, but don't make your family, your children financially, hurt because, oh, I don't want to try. Like, I think that that's sad. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but like you said, it's free to try.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you had multiple jobs since you've gotten out, um,
Yes.
helping veterans. What were those positions?
So, well, let me tell you how I got my first job.
Yeah, let's talk
Um,
about it.
so I got out of the military March of 2016. And so when I got out, I was really fortunate. I paid off my car while I was in. So what I did was I took the money for the car payment and I put it in savings. And I did that for a long time. So when I got out, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to work or if I wanted to go to school. I personally didn't want to go to work and school at the same time. I know there's some people that, they like to do that, or some people they have to do that. But me personally, I'm like, I'm not doing both. I'm going to choose one or the other for a while. And so I just spent some time like, resting and trying to figure, what I wanted to do. So the way I got my first job was I unintentionally networked. And I'll explain what I mean
Okay.
by that. And I think this is really important what I have to say when it comes to, trying to, get a job, find a job. So my mom, she cuts hair, and she had a customer invite her to her like son or grandson's high school graduation. And so my mom invited me and I said, okay, so I'm invited to something, I'm going to go to it. So my mom's customer, her daughter, I graduated high school with her. And so, we caught up and she was like, hey, you want to come, hiking, walking through Paladero Canyon? And I said, sure. So we went to do that together. We're just, talking about all kinds of different now. And I said, well, I may be getting a job. And she is like, hey, well, my mom works at a counseling center and they have a veteran resource center. And I was like, oh, okay. So I looked into it and the money started running low. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to school right now. Money's starting to get low. Let me just go ahead and start applying for jobs. So I applied for the job and I got the job. So what I'm about to tell you, my former coworker, he's a friend of mine. He actually gave me more details behind me getting the job. He
Okay.
said when they posted that job, they had over 70 people apply.
Wow.
And he said that they looked at all the resumes and they narrowed it down to 15. And they're like, there's no way we're going to interview 15 people. Okay, so we're going to have to narrow it down some more. So then they narrowed it to 5. They're like, okay, we're willing to interview 5 people. So the people who interviewed was my, former coworker, my friend, and then the former CEO of the counseling center. So I interviewed with them, and what he ended up telling me was they liked me and 2 other people. So then my former boss of the Veteran Resource Center, they got her involved. They're like, okay, you're going to have to choose because we like all 3 of them. And, we can't hire all 3. So I interviewed with her and 2 other people interviewed with her and she chose me. So it's really cool how that all played out because I didn't know about the Veteran Resource Center in Amarillo. Um, because I went to a party, I took an opportunity, I connected with somebody that I knew
Hmm.
and we're just talking about life and, an opportunity presents itself.
There you go.
Hmm.
That's I always find it fascinating on how people like unintentionally network, as you put it. Right?
Yeah.
It's um, I actually did a lot of intentional networking where I'd go out and find like those veteran it didn't even have to be veterans, but just networking events, and I'd
Yeah.
constantly go out and just put my name out there, put my face out there just to see if somebody was interested, and I'd get a couple of bites here and there, but what I was missing was people who knew me. Whereas you had that fantastic opportunity to where somebody actually knew you and could actually say, I like this person because X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Um, whereas, especially in my situation, a lot of times was, hey, I met this guy. That's all I know.
Right.
So good luck. And that's how a lot of my networking events went. But I got a lot of uh, I got a lot of interviews out of it.
Well, that's good. So I can tell you, like I said, I'm in graduate school right now. And so hopefully, like I said, I'll be graduating in December. I'll be graduating in December.
Thank you.
And so the school that I attend, they have something called Beyond Graduate School. I guess it's like a separate company. And so they have like different videos on like your resume and networking and whatnot. And so I've been watching some of those, and some things that I've learned about networking is give or take around 85% of people they get jobs through networking. So I think that's really important for the veteran community to understand because when you and I were in the military, like, 10 years ago, about the way they did hiring then is so different now. So I'm glad I'm watching these videos because I was like, I remember when I was in Soldier for Life and we weren't taught that. That's not a bad thing. It's just things have changed so much. Like I remember when I went to, I'll call it Civil Tap. When I went to Civil Tap, I think they mentioned like LinkedIn, but I don't think they like thoroughly went through it. And like now, today, it is like super important. Like, honestly, I don't know how to, navigate LinkedIn. That's why I've been watching the videos to be like, okay, how do I set up my LinkedIn, to be appealing to
Right.
somebody, and all that stuff. But yeah, those, networking is important. LinkedIn is important. Something else that one of those videos said was like 50% of jobs aren't posted. That's why
Yeah.
networking is so important because and I'm not gonna lie, networking is hard. I'm introverted, so I don't just like to go up and talk to people. So for people who struggle with it, I get it because that's a
Yeah.
100%. It is 100% me, and it is scary too. I do have a scary story to go with networking. To be honest, we'll get to that in a few minutes. But yes, those things are important, networking, LinkedIn, your resume being well written and not just sending the same resume to every job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you have to tailor your resume.
I mean, you do, and I know people don't want to hear, nobody wants to hear that, veteran or not. But looking for a job, it is a full-time job. You
Absolutely.
do, people aren't going to like this, but if you're not working and you're able to, you need to put the 8 hours in. I mean, I know, understand everybody's got different, lives and things going on, but you have to put in a lot of time. And I know people don't want to hear it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it you said it the exact same way that I always say it, or that I've always heard it. You know, finding a job is a full time job in
It
itself.
is.
So, with the amount of research that you have to do with of just the company itself, and then tailoring your resume to the job description, and then also, that's multiple jobs in one day. That is a day at least to get even three job applications done. But I also like what you mentioned, where you said 50% of the jobs are actually not posted. What I have seen before is someone does really well in an interview and they're like, hey, we really like you, but we're not going to hire you for this one position. But call me in 2 weeks because there's another opportunity coming up. I think you would be even better for. We haven't posted it yet. So in 2 weeks, when we actually post it, call us again and we'll put you in for it. And I think a lot of times, like when you don't know how to interview, when you don't know how to be approachable or coachable or teachable,
Yeah.
you lose those opportunities also.
And so you've said several things that, I want to add on to.
Please.
So when I got out of the military, I moved to the Texas Panhandle. And then I met my boyfriend, who's now my husband. So when he got a job, I live here in North Texas. So when he moved over here, I was like, well, I'm going to move over here too. So I went to a job fair, and I believe it was a Texas Veterans Commission. There was an employee, I don't remember what her specific title was. So she had told me to apply for a specific job. And I'm not going to lie, I did not want to do the job. But at the same, I mean, I wasn't guaranteed it, but I was like, me personally, I don't want to spend time and effort on something that I don't want to do. But she made the effort to tell me, and I'm like, okay. So this job was for a federal job at the VA, right? The Dallas VA. So I'm applying, and it gets to a certain point where it's asking for something or the other. And I'm like, seriously? Like, I don't even qualify for this position. And I did all this work. So I wasn't very happy, but I'm like, well, I'm going to have integrity. She took the time to tell me. I applied. I wasn't interested. So let me tell you what came out of that. So I don't remember how many months later, after I had applied for that position, I got a phone call from the Dallas VA. It wasn't for that position, it was for a totally different position. And I needed a job because I had been out of work for several months. And so, not that I was guaranteed that position, but they were like, hey, you need to, include this in your resume. Okay, I'll do it. So I interviewed and I've got the job. So it was just like sometimes when somebody tells you to do something and you don't really want to do it, you know, the way, and it's hard because I'm a super picky person, just have to view jobs as like building blocks. Nobody says
Hmm.
you have to work there forever.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked 5 different jobs in 5 years because for
Yeah.
me it was not a good fit. But in every case, I've taken something from those positions into my next job, and I've done better,
Yeah.
and I'm doing better now in the position that I'm in. And I like the idea that like even a federal position, there's people behind the screens that are looking at your resume because I know how hard a federal job application is. They are
It's a lot.
long. They those will take half a day, if not a day, to
It's
complete.
it's like a lot of information, like, oh my gosh, make sure you have records of your previous addresses and like pretty much all your jobs, because I mean, they want to know everything, and it makes sense, but it is a lot.
It is.
It is a
And
lot.
I specifically took a separate how to build a federal resume course while I was at Fort Drum,
Uh-huh.
because I was like, "Ah, you never know. I'll probably end up working for the federal government again at some point." And that was the time when I realized that a federal resume is not a civilian resume. A federal resume is a book
Yeah.
of everything that you have done.
It's not a limit. Like they usually say, like for a civilian resume, have like the last 10 years of work on a resume. So depending on how many jobs you have within that 10 years, it's okay to go over a page. But usually you just want it to be a page. But no, like you said, a federal resume, it's like a book. They want anything and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, go back all the way to when you were graduating high school, even. Like, I did JROTC when I was in high school. We did a couple of field trips to military firefighting schools and military shipboard damage control schools. And it was just a field trip to us high school kids. They showed up on my military transcript when I got out. And guess what? That's what I get asked about when I was applying for a federal job was, hey, tell me about that time that you did this firefighting school.
Wow.
Like when I was on a high school field trip. That was it. So yeah, it was so weird trying to apply for federal jobs. And again, those are two separate entities. Civilian jobs and federal jobs are two separate experiences on their own. So, what did you do after that?
Um, well, before I talk about what I did after that, I wanted to go back to you were talking about research. So, oh my gosh. So, research is so important. You know, you want to make sure that the company is legit because there are fake companies out there. You want to make sure that the person you're communicating with is legit because people can say, oh, I'm a recruiter from this company, and they have no association, Um, and the reason why I bring up this research part is because unfortunately, I've been scammed before. And what happened to me was, and I'm not blaming the app. I'm just telling you how I got this, job. So there's an app called Meetup, and I don't remember exactly how it works because it's been years since I've really messed with it. And I guess it asks you about what your interests are or whatever. And so there was this one company that was looking to hire somebody. And I was looking for work, and so I contacted the person, and I met him where the company was at, and he basically hired me, right? So when I look back on things, I'm like, how did I not? Well, I'm gonna be honest. I did something that I'm gonna say 99.9% of people wouldn't do.
Okay.
So most people would be like, if I don't get paid in 2 weeks or in a month, I'm gone. See, I didn't
Right.
do that. I was like, I like this guy. I want to see this company, grow. I've got some money in my checking account. And so I went like a month without pay, right? So then I started asking about the pay, and he kept pushing it, and he kept pushing it, and he kept pushing it. Well, then it got to the point where I'm like, I have rent due. And so I had asked him for a certain amount of money, and he gave me the money, but his attitude about giving me the money was like he was angry.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one that had put, in Meetup that you were hiring somebody. So then, so I got some of that money, and then I was still owed money, and I kept asking about getting paid, and he kept pushing, pushing it off. And one day he brought up that he had a vehicle that he wanted to let go of. And I said, "Hey, well, how much are you asking for that vehicle?" And he gave me the amount. I said, "Hey, well, what we could do, you owe me X amount of dollars." that vehicle, what you're asking for is half of what you owe me. So how about if you're okay with it, you give me the vehicle and then you owe me less money. And he's like, yeah, we can do that. So then I tried calling him, I tried texting him, and sometimes he'd pick up, sometimes he wouldn't. And then, and I'm still trying to be hopeful because, and I think this happens to some people, not about waiting for money, but like me, like I was so desperate to be valued for what I could
Hmm.
bring to a company that when I started working with him, like he worked in a really nice office in Dallas. It was like a tower. Um, the office was really cool. Um, it was one of those types of like co-working spaces where sometimes I had different events going on. So for example, there are some women that I guess they cut hair, they had a hair salon and they were doing anybody's hair for free. And one day he told me, hey, you can go down there and get your hair done. I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. So just like building up my trust, doing these fun things. And then like I said, I talked to my, now husband, and I was like, I want to let this, job go. I don't think I told my husband at that time that I was struggling to get paid,
Hmm.
but I let go of that job and I took him to court and the judge said he had to pay me back. But that all happened like near Veterans Day. So then, we have the holidays and then the pandemic hits and it just wasn't worth the effort anymore or trying to get a lawyer or whatever for the money. So like and that's the same thing for veteran to hire. I wish I could say with 100% confident everybody's trustworthy. I can't say that, if a job seems suspicious or somebody seems suspicious, please reach out to me, private message me and let me know. But yeah, unfortunately there's scammers and some people even within our community that you think you can trust and you can't. So that's why I say do your research, why networking can be scary because you are trusting a lot of people you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry that that happened to you. That's very unfortunate, and we really hope that that guy isn't doing those things anymore
Yeah.
because that's just more people, more and more people that he's just taking advantage of, and he can not be in that tower anymore. That'd be fantastic. You're just focusing on school right now, right?
Yes, I'm just focusing on school right now.
At any point when you were going back to grad school, were you thinking I could do both, or you just said I'm good right now? I want to focus 100% effort on school.
So me, okay, so what I've noticed about some people, even if they're not veterans, some people love to do a million things. Oh, I'm gonna
Hmm.
work a full-time job and I'm gonna go to grad school full time and then I'm gonna run a full-time nonprofit and I'm gonna have 5 kids. Like I'm not that person. Like
Fair.
I get hyper focused. Like my attention, if I'm gonna do something, it needs to be on one thing. I don't thrive on doing a lot of different things like some people do, but I also understand too everybody has, different things going on in their life, so they do have to work and they do have to go to school. I'm very fortunate I don't have to work. So me, I'm choosing not to work. But I will say with that if you can get some kind of experience, whether it's like volunteering or a job, anything that'll build up your resume to show that you're learning, you're applying skills,
Yeah.
and like that you care about people, especially with the volunteering part. I'm not saying you have to volunteer, but if you can't work, if you can, spare an hour to doing something that's relevant to what you're interested in or you want to do, will be helpful to your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up this resume and you bring up all these things that you are doing in support of that resume. And I'm going somewhere with this, and it's you're in school for marketing
Yes.
and you're not actively pursuing a job at the moment. But what you are doing as you're volunteering, as you're running this Facebook page, is that when you actually start writing your resume, you can put all of that in to that resume when you are looking for jobs. And I think that's a lot of people don't understand is the translation of skills into a resume format. Like going into marketing, the things that you're volunteering with the Facebook group can support a job in marketing.
Oh yeah, like I could possibly do social media marketing because Better Not Hire is on Facebook. Facebook is social media. I'm putting posts and I'm letting people know about it. I think people just need to view like volunteering as work as you're gaining experience, you're getting skills.
Right. And also, don't be afraid to try to make a good connection between what you already have done in the military. Okay, this translates a bit to this thing in this job description. Like, for example, I had a warrant officer,
Mhm.
an armament tech, and there's not a lot of demand in the civilian world for someone who can fix tanks. But because he was in charge of multiple satellite sites, the that alone, that experience is the thing that got him his first job out of the military. Now he can actually stay organized and run multiple off-site locations, like somewhere in different parts of the country. But because he had that experience, that's the skill that was able to translate into the next job that he got.
And I'm glad that you said that because I think some people in the military may view their MOS as, oh, well, it was, there's nothing valuable there. It was worthless. Okay, maybe some people in the military made you feel that way. But I can tell you, like, for people looking on the outside, I mean, you made a commitment, to get up early in the morning. I mean, there's people who aren't willing to work in the morning, like that's something. Willing to do hard things, that's something like you have to learn to like see things from a different perspective.
Right. And I think that that's also like just where you and I come in, right? Where we've gone 9, 10 years outside of the military. We're looking back and we're saying, oh yeah, I see where you're having issues. This is what worked for me. This is what worked for my friend. This is what worked for this person. um, Maybe you should try one or all of those things and see how that goes. um, and again, like, I think the veterans who have been there, done that, got the T-shirt. We need to turn back around and just start
Yeah.
pulling other veterans up, rather than just allowing them to fall on their face.
So there's something else that came to mind. So you're saying a lot of good things, and then it brings a lot of good things to my
Sure.
mind. So going back to when I was working for the Dallas VA. So I think sometimes people get concerned because something else that I learned from those videos that I've been watching is that it could possibly take up like 6 to 9 months to get a job.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people think, well, if I haven't had a job in 6 to 9 months, could that hurt me? Well, I think it's situation dependent. I can tell you that when I applied to work at the Dallas VA, I hadn't had a job in a long time. But what I did have was a veteran hire group. And so I'm just trying to emphasize once again, volunteering can help you because of its experience, skills, or like, you know, you have to do what you have to do to bring in an income. So don't look down upon jobs. Like just do what you can. I mean, it's experience. I think something else I want to say is like as far as expectations with jobs is like you may or may not make what you were in the military. It's just going to depend on the experiences you had in the military and how you present those experiences. There
Yeah.
may be people in the military that they didn't make a lot, but they're making a lot now because of the experiences they had in the way they presented it. There's some people that made a lot of money when they're in the military and they come out and they have a lot of good experiences, but they don't present that well. And unfortunately, some veterans just have this mindset of hire me because I'm a veteran, pay me this amount of money because I'm a veteran. And it's just like, that's not how it works.
That was me. That was me. That was, again, that
Well,
was
thank you
me
for being
getting out of the
honest.
military. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the first year or so, I was like, how? do these civilians not understand that I was a I was an officer in the army. What am I missing here? Like it really was all on me, but in my
Yeah.
mind, it
Yeah.
was, why are they not seeing this? And it's, as you said, I was presenting it completely wrong. Like I was presenting it uh, like I was God's gift to the civilian world. Um, and I had I had avoided that my entire army career, like trying to convince everyone in the army that I was God's gift to the army. As a new lieutenant and new captain and all those things, like I was never going to fall into that trap while I was in the military. As soon as I got out, though, different story. But yeah, I couldn't present that, and I ended up taking jobs that were so menial in my mind that I was miserable for so long. But eventually I learned. Um, I guess
Yeah,
you could say I learned.
you gain skills,
I did.
you
I
gain
gained skills.
experience, and you were able to put that on your resume.
Right. And I will tell you that I struggled um, in my own way because again, I'm watching friends and colleagues who I left the military with. It seemed to me like they were head and shoulders above what I was doing, and I was like, what did I do wrong? What did I do differently? And I was too ashamed to have that conversation. But now I'm 10 years removed from that, and I can tell you, um, don't get out of the military and expect that the civilians are going to know exactly what you did and why, and they're not going to just look at you and be like, got it, you get a six-figure job immediately because you were so important.
Yeah, and I think, it goes back to the expectations and in reality. I wish if you're a veteran, you were guaranteed an interview. I'm not saying guaranteed a job, but guaranteed an interview. So that way you could get the experience. I wish at a minimum veterans would make a certain amount. But just because your goal is to make 100,000 doesn't mean you're never going to make 100,000. That just takes time. So earlier I was on Veteran Hire and there was this comment about it was a six-figure job. And somebody commented about how that really wasn't a lot. And I'm like, you must not understand that statistically, like less than what, 12%, less than 10% of people make over six figures.
Yeah,
So really, that's really good money. And it's going to depend too where you live. Six figures may not get you much in Los Angeles or New York City, but come somewhere in Texas. I'm not saying you're going to get to party all the time with that money, but you can make, you're not going to
you can
suffer.
live. Yeah, you can live a
Yeah.
pretty good life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the last two questions that I ask everybody else as we wrap up here. And the first one is the serious question. The second one, not so serious. The first one is, with hindsight being 2020, and even with the things that you have been doing to help veterans now, what's one of the biggest pieces of advice that you can give to someone who is transitioning out of the military, getting ready to, or within that first few months of, I'm out and the rose tinted glasses are finally coming off?
I would say transitioning just takes time, and you should allow yourself to feel that, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. And I'd also like to say that, you know, as much as possible, like be financially be prepared when you're in. Like I said earlier, I'm fortunate because I paid off my car. Well, once I paid off my car in the military, I put that money in savings and I didn't touch it because you don't know how long it's going to take you to get a job. Some people are very fortunate. They go from army or, whatever branch they serve and, they got a job right there and then. But then some people, it's not like that. And you're not thinking negatively, but you're just being realistic and you're just preparing for what's next. I remember when I was in, some people were like, oh, yeah, I already have a job lined up. And I was like, that's great. But what if that family member has to back out?
Yeah.
What are you going to do then? Or what if, this, unfortunately, things happen in life and, people aren't truly trying to torture you. It's just certain things happen and they have to, take back on what they said. And it's just, it's having a plan. I would say don't, have the mindset of kind of like what you had of, I'll just figure it as it comes. That's not a good situation to be in, especially, and like
Yeah.
I said,
Tell me
I'm not
about it.
trying to attack anybody. If you have a family or
Yeah.
somebody that you're taking care of, like, yeah, you just, when you get out, you know, if you think you're worth 40 bucks an hour, I'm not saying that you aren't, but if your skills don't say that, if your experience doesn't say that, you may not get that. You may have to start out with $20 an hour. If you need more, you may have to work multiple jobs. Like, you got to do what you got to do to take care of yourself and or family or whoever it is that you take care of until you get to where you want. Not saying you won't get there, but it's going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that it does take time, and transition is not a 1 day event, right? Like, you didn't just get out of the military and all of a sudden, you know everything about being in the civilian. Just as much as like it took time for you to go to basic AIT and a bunch of different military schools just for you to be a basic soldier.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go through a lot of this uh, uh, pain just for you to be a basic civilian.
Yeah,
Um,
you just gotta like, don't be afraid to reach out, whether it's going to events or, different social media groups. I mean, so when my husband and I were moving here to, I found different groups on Facebook. Just start typing something, put, North Texas veterans or Dallas veterans or Texas veteran. There's a bunch of different groups. Join them and see what you think about it. And if you feel comfortable, then say, hey, does anybody know where I can, get free resume help or somebody that's low cost, or you have to put yourself out there. And I understand that it's scary, but you have to do something. You can't just sit there and wait.
yeah, absolutely. So let's finish up with the final question. And again, this one's not as serious. What's one thing that you picked up while you were in the army that you just can't get rid of? Like, in some cases, people can't stop tucking in their laces into their shoes. Or for me, I have to be on time. Like, I'm usually 15 minutes early to almost everything.
Okay, so let's go with me being in grad school.
Okay.
So it is so annoying to me when the professor starts talking and y'all won't shut up. And sometimes I just want to yell out at ease. Like, that feeling is so strong to me because the way I view it too, besides being in the military, is like a respect thing. Like, he's here, he or she, in my case, it's, been men, you know, they're here to teach us. So when they start talking, like, shut it.
Yeah, I get that completely. Especially in grad school. Grad school is one of those places where it's like you really don't have to be there, but you pay a lot of money to be there. So please be quiet and pay attention.
Please respect the people who want to be there,
Yeah,
and that are making sacrifices to be there. You may be there for whatever reason, but it's just a respect thing. Respect the professor and respect your peers.
absolutely. I appreciate that. Samantha, thank you so, so much for joining me this evening, having this great chat. I'm so thankful that we can have this conversation and that we
Yes.
can actually talk about the things that we have seen on veterans' minds. Um, I'll throw a link to the Facebook group. Obviously, you must at least apply to be in that private group. With that, ladies and gentlemen, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and later, lads.